Hey, witches!
Hi, hello, and welcome back to another episode. Today we are going to be learning some history. Um, so, a little background. I went to the bookstore for a couple of very specific books, so like some of the upcoming books that we're going to be doing. And I went 30 minutes before close, and of course, I spent about 15 minutes searching for what I needed to search for, and then I spent 5 minutes running around trying to find the other thing I needed. And I spotted this. It's the Witch's Almanac by Charles Christian. Um, I when I think almanac, I was thinking like the farmer's almanac, like the things for the next year, something like that. But this was thick, so I was like, what kind of almanac is that? It's not necessarily like a hand guide, but I was like, okay, maybe it's kind of like a small little, I don't know, book that shows you like what's coming, and then or like what like the farmer's almanac, it's supposed to like tell you how things are going to be, and then previous years where that has happened, like I don't know, trying to do some historical aspect to it. um but it's Sorcerers, Witches, and Magic from Ancient Rome to the Digital Age. It's actually a history book, I didn't realize. um we're going to be talking about, there's a lot in this, but we're going to be talking about like one specific like section. um so yeah. Okay. um So there is actually a story in here. So we're in the section Magic in the Middle Ages. So we're thinking like the very beginning of Christianity, the very beginning of like the Crusades, like that era, very, very, very long ago. Um, and in Christianity at this time, the witchcraft is not very potent. It's kind of still the main religion of the time, and Christianity is like the up and coming. Um, but with Christianity, they have patron saints, and we are going to be talking about Saint Cyprian of Antioch. So his death is calculated around 304 Common Era. So way back in the day. Uh, so he is actually the patron saint in the Christian church of sorcerers. A lot of people question that. Why would the Christian religion have a patron saint of sorcerers? It kind of has a little bit to do with Saint Cyprian himself, um, and his background. So, Saint Cyprian actually was a pagan child. He grew up in like the pagan lifestyle. He was actually dedicated to the service of the god Apollo. Um, and then he entered the mysteries of the Roman god Mithras at the age of seven and was entrusted to the care of magicians to study sorcery. So, from the age of 7, he is learning magic. He is learning the dark arts, uh, anything and everything that he can about magic at that time. Now, I'm not saying all magic was dark arts, but some of the occult knowledge that he learned is basically from all over the place. So he, all his studies would actually take him all over the ancient world so that he would gain this knowledge. So because of that, he's getting information from all over like that time. So we're talking like Egypt, Rome, um, the islands of Greece, all of that ancient area he's learning all of this information from. So it's going to be some dark, some light kind of magic sorcery that he's learning. Um, and obviously, this is all based on eyewitness accounts and like think people who have written down all of this information. Now, here's the thing: most of the items that we know about him are going to be from the Christian church. So, here in a little bit, the story doesn't necessarily turn out to be very informative of his past, just kind of like a general idea. And I mean, like most Christian churches, damns witchcraft, the occult, all of that kind of stuff. But One account actually shows that he participated in the Lucian mysteries, which Brandy actually talked about in a previous episode. Um, so he is the one who carried the torch of the goddess Demeter, and he wore the white garments of Cori, or Persephone, which is Demeter's daughter, and he served the serpent of Pallas. He did this before being sent to Mount Olympus, where only living on fruits and acorns, he actually learned how to control the weather and the seas. Um, Probably not to the extent of Poseidon or, those lovely Greek gods, but something along those lines. He learned this magic. Um, and all of this is before the age of 10. So he is
Okay.
quite, he's quite, he's making quite the effort. So at the age of 10, he learned divination from the movement of animals, the sound of trees, and the whispers of the dead. So he is learning even more occult information. And then at the age of 15, he lived in Argus and served the goddess Juno. Juno, I don't know who is the goddess of, so sorry about that. Um, but he learned the arts of deception. So now he is a rogue. Um, he lived in Theropolis, which is a Greek island, or on a Greek island, sorry, where he served the goddess Diana, and then Sparta, and mastered necromancy and incantations on how to commune with the dead, which is where the dark arts come in. Necromancy is not necessarily bad, but
Yeah.
it's kind of frowned
You have
upon.
yeah, well, because you can bring in a lot of
Bad things.
unwanted things if
It's
you're
like playing
not
with a Ouija
careful.
board if you're not careful. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Just like a Ouija board. Um, so all of this before the age of 20. When he is 20, he moves to Memphis in Egypt, where he learned the ways of demonic possession, demonology, and how to magically induce natural disasters. So he is learning some fucked up shit. I don't understand why he needed to learn natural disasters, but he does. So
Okay.
that's great. And then finally, at the age of 30, he lived with, what is it? Chaldeans amid the ruins of Babylon, where he mastered astrology and herbalism, as well as the motion of ether, fire, and light before moving to Antioch, which is in Turkey somewhere, modern day at least. So there in Antioch, he became a powerful sorcerer and the go-to source of love potions, charms, incantations, and as a man who could do everything from cast out the demons to invoke them, he became quite powerful against his enemies. Um, so that's kind of his background. That's kind of like where he is at the start of his story, because Antioch is where the story starts taking off of why he became Saint Cyprian. So in Antioch, a young man called Aglaidus asked him to use his magic to help him woo a woman that he found extremely attractive. Her name is Justina. So, although Cyprian had cast several incantations, spells, and even sent demons after her to try to convince her to be with this guy, she wouldn't. She is actually a very devout Christian, and she was often seen praying. So, because of her devout faith and most of the time spent like sending in prayer, she was actually unafflicted by anything that Cyprian had done to her, which is a feat in and of itself,
Yeah.
considering all the information that he has actually learned. So, um, he actually was very confused. He didn't understand why his stuff didn't work. He was the go to man for a lot of things. He was 30. He had all of these powers. He was able to do all of these things, but this one person stopped him from doing all of this? So he became very, very depressed. He was in despair. He didn't know what to do next. So
Aren't we all?
he, yeah, yeah. So he made the sign of the cross, whereupon he was immediately freed from the toils of Satan, according to Fox's Book of Martyrs. So this Book of Martyrs says that because his magic failed, he immediately made the sign of the cross and he was freed from Satan himself.
Hmm.
And because of that, he renounced sorcery and witchcraft and the black magic arts at this time. He had burned all of his books of spells. He converted to Christianity, was baptized, and subsequently became a deacon, um, a priest, and finally the bishop of Antioch. So he worked his way up through the realms of um, the wonderful Christian faith. He is there. So I guess there's two Saint Cyprians. There's the Bishop of Carthage, Carthage, whatever, Carthage. Not the same person. They are two different people.
Okay.
So, and that one's, I guess, further along the line. They say near contemporary, so not him. Uh, but anyways, so the would-be lover Aglatus converted to Christianity as well. While Justina actually, instead of seeing him as a possible suitor, she decided that she was going to go become even more devout and actually take her vows of chastity and become the abbess of a local covenant. So she was taking everything to the next level herself. Um, so, despite the rocky start to their friendship, they actually worked together, Cyprian and Justina. Now, they were very platonic and everything due to like their devout ways. Now, um, they actually became siblings in Christ, is how a lot of the people would say it. Cyprian's sister in Christ. So it doesn't necessarily have like a really true happy ending, but it's kind of got this weird kind of twist in the end. So at this time, Christianity was still barely tolerated within the Roman Empire, and in the year 304, Common Era, Cyprian and Justina were both dragged away to the capital of Nicomedia, which is also in Turkey, where the Roman Emperor Diocletian demanded that he either renounce Christianity and return to worshiping the old gods, or he faces the consequences. Um, and despite his vast upbringing in the arts, he said no. Like, I'm a devout Christian now. So neither him or Justina would actually abandon their religion. And so they knew that their fate would essentially be death. Um, they were tortured. In their case, they were thrown into a cauldron of boiling water. But they were actually not harmed during this entire thing. Either,
Witchcraft.
I wonder. He's like, try me. But legend says they were saved from that. So they were beheaded. They're like, okay, you're not gonna boil alive. We're just gonna like cut your head off. So
All
that's what they did.
right.
They were beheaded.
Well, that's quicker.
So
That's a quicker death.
yeah, so they were both murdered essentially because they would not renounce their faith in Christianity. So they were actually both canonized in the Christian faith, depending on which church you follow. So like it's normally like the Orthodox Church and the Christian Church. I mean, Orthodox Christian, whatever. It's basically they celebrate things the same but like separate days. So like what is it? The Western church celebrates his day on September 26th, and in the East it is celebrate or not the East, the Orthodox Church um is celebrated on October 2nd. His feast appeared in the Roman Catholic calendar of the Roman Rite celebrations from the 13th century until 1969. In 1969, it was actually removed because of the lack of historical evidence of his existence. So they couldn't really find anything historically accurate. So they're like, goodbye. Makes for a cool
All
story,
right.
though, regardless. So most of the elements of this legend is obviously very fantastical. It's not, there's not a lot of, you know, accuracy to it, but also we weren't there. They don't have accurate anything. Back then it was based off storytellers, and we had what, 13 men write the Bible? Shit could be believable.
Right.
Like if Jesus can raise from the dead and like do these things,
Yep.
listen, other people can do it too. You just gotta believe. Anyways, probably gonna get yelled at for that. What is it? So Saint Cyprian actually is very relevant in modern times. So actually, despite being what is it? Despite being a Christian saint, many witches and sorcerers and those who are of pagan faith will actually still call upon him to help out with their spells or help out with anything that they're manifesting. So it's not. So this is where like the weird twist comes in. He was a pagan child. He renounced that faith, went to Christian faith, wouldn't go back, died for it, became canonized, and now the pagans still call upon him. So it's like
What
this
is
weird, you're not
happening?
Christian, but you are worshiping somebody. Yeah. Anyways. Um so some of this traditional, I guess, stories that people would say about Saint Cyprian was he destroyed most of his manuscripts and retained the most important one of all, his personal collection of notes and spells. So his own personal grimoire, basically. So it goes on to say that while Cyprian abandoned the black arts, he didn't actually abandon sorcery or witchcraft. He continued to practice the magic where it could benefit and protect his fellow Christians, basically demonology and demonic possession. So he actually used some of his spells from his prior occult like learning to help protect his fellow Christians from possible demon attacks.
Huh.
Um, so he is also, because of this fact, known as Saint Cyprian the Thurgist, meaning the ruler of demons, a magician so powerful that he can order their coming and going, can protect people from supernatural harm, and can intervene on behalf of people possessed by demons or bounced by hexes and bewitching. Some even suggest that the Roman Catholic Church's original exorcism rites and prayers were based on the notes and spells found in Cyprian's personal grimoire. So, legend states that it's very similar to the original work. So, if you are unlucky or lucky, however you look at it, enough to be witness to a demonic possession and an exorcism by a Catholic priest, you actually might see something very similar to the original work. And actually, most, if not any, everything, not most, if not everything, is actually in Latin, and Latin is a dead language because that is basically what the original, I don't want to say Greeks, but like the original Greek Roman area spoke at one time. Some point in time. But so Catholic priests are actually taught Latin through their work, and they, most of their sermons are going to be in Latin, depending on like the location that you go to. The church I went to, it wasn't all in Latin, but like most of the chants and the prayers and all that he did were in Latin. And I actually had to take Latin. Fuck if I know why, but I mean, there were jokes that they wanted us to become nuns. I mean, we were a small class. There was only 10 of us and we were all girls. So, and I think it's just I don't remember correctly, but I think my family is the only one who actually joked about this, specifically my parents. But my parents didn't understand why I was learning Latin, which small town thinking, you always wonder why you're like learning another language when you don't really need it, kind of thing. Um, but Latin though, Latin, I get it. I question that too. Um, but like, yeah, so I straight up was just like, I don't want to do this. Like, why am I doing this? My parents would just basically say, yeah, they just want you to become a nun. And that was the joke. That's why every day I went and I learned Latin. That's what I would learn. That's what I would think.
I
I don't remember
mean,
shit. But, anyways, so let me tell you. He's known as Saint Cyprian the Mage in like Latin America and Mediterranean um, countries. So if you see that or like Cipriano, it's the same person. They're talking about the same person. Um, he has earned the unofficial reputation of being the patron saint of witches, magicians, sorcerers, occultists, demonologists, and necromancers, which is still so weird because most of that is. I don't want to say just the Christian church because I'm sure there's some Christian churches out there that are not, yeah, some churches because they're not all. I'm so used to like the Catholic being part of like a diocese and like everybody is basically the same in that diocese. But some Christian churches are literally just them. Like nobody else, nobody controls them, nothing like that. So it's actually really funny that oh, I just lost my page. Oops. Um that the Catholic Church like denounces all witchcraft and everything, divination, whatever the case may be, but there's literally a patron saint and they
yeah, that
follow
is
all
weird.
patron saints. Um but anyways, whatever. Moving on. So a lot of questions after his death were where is his grimoire? It is stated that multiple copies of the grimoire, known as the Book of Saint Cyprian, uh, were made so that the secret knowledge they contain could be passed on and down through the ages until present day. Um, this is just the story, though. This is not true. So if you are looking for that book, you might be disappointed. Um, but most believe that just the reality of it, it's just lost in time. It vanished from the historical record for over 1400 years and only resurfaced in the mid 18th century. The earliest extant, ex, extant, extant edition of the Book of Saint Cyprian is in Spanish, but it was translated from Latin in the 11th century and it dates back to 1810. And around 1810, Christianity is now the most prevalent religion in the world. So if it was, um, so if they're sitting there thinking that this patron saint of all of these things is great and wonderful, somebody in 1810 finds his original grimoire, sees that it's probably black magic and that they don't want anything to do with it, then they might change like history, which is the problem with people rewriting manuscripts. Because what if it's wrong? What if it's absolutely incorrect? But whatever. That's besides the point. That's not my business right now. Um so anyways, so most of the book is going to be in Spanish, Portuguese, in those like editions. So if you're looking for that, most of it's going to be in Latin America. Uh where else was it? Some of the writings too is believed that it's since it is a manuscript, it's kind of, I don't know how to explain it. They don't know if the book has basically like little segments of like whatever he was kind of branched off into like their own religion, and like they kind of adopted some of his like ideas or like spells or whatever, or if the person who like rewrote this from long ago like kind of forged a little bit of it to make it sound like um
Right.
it's just a little sketch, nothing makes sense. um because it's mainly like Afro-Caribbean, Afro-Brazilian, um American beliefs and Catholicism, uh African traditions, so like there's things that are very similar to that but not like totally all in it. So it's, I mean, he did travel, so who knows. But anyways, um basically regardless of that, he is actually a very prominent figure in folk magic, um folk Catholicism, which I didn't know was a thing, and hoodoo practices of those places. um if you visit one of the botanicas shops in like one of those areas of that part of the world, you'll actually find San Capriano statues, spell kits, pictures, oils, candles, and even soaps for sale, which that's kind of cool. Whenever I see soap that's not made of goat milk or something like that, I think it's a gimmick. Because I'm like, why are you making soaps for like witchcraft? It's not made of goat's milk. But
I
is that
mean,
just,
I don't know. I don't know about that.
yeah, I don't know. Let's see. um, so it says, it actually tells you, oh, that's kind of fucked up. I don't know if I want to say that out loud. Ah, but it's history. Okay. I don't I don't condone anything that is being said in this, and if there's hidden meanings behind it, then look to the hidden meanings and not to the words I'm about to say. But oils in Saint Cyprian's name apparently contains pieces of cats, toads, snakes, bats, goat horns, wormwood, dog's mercury, pennyroyal, indigo, pine, cedar, sulfur, copper fillings, and the powder from 21 human skulls.
Oh, all
He is
right.
even credited with being the author of the original and infamous hoodoo, voodoo black cat spell. Cook the dead body of a black cat at midnight in boiling water with wood from the willow until the meat is loosened from the bones. Strain the bones in a linen cloth, and in front of the mirror, place the bones one by one in your mouth until you find that you have the magic to make you become invisible. Keep the bone with the magic property, and if you want to go somewhere without being seen, place the bone in your mouth. Some magic supply shops still offer black cat bones for sale, but relax, it's not necessary to call out the Cat Protection League, as these are inevitably just chicken bones dyed black. Well, that's nice. Just forage for
No.
your bones. How about that?
And also, don't
For-
put them in your mouth.
yeah, don't do that. If you do that, boil them first. I mean, it's kind of like putting like a chicken bone in your mouth, but at least they're cooked.
I
So if you're gonna
guess.
do it, boil it, disinfect it, something, whatever. Um. Anyways, so yeah. Um. He, for how obscure he is, for being a fourth century martyr, he is still relevant in the 21st century. Sorcery and witchcraft is just one pretty remarkable for his story. Um, apparently, there is a preserved arm of Saint Cyprian that can be found in the Zoltari Church in Bucharest, Romania, and is believed to have the power to lift curses and spells when touched. I wonder if that's kind of like one of those like healing springs, where some people just go to the healing spring with an ailment,
Right.
gets dipped in the water, comes out free of that ailment. Um, but whatever. So that's basically all of the history lesson. I'm just going to do like a couple of quick fun facts because I just love the hypocrisy with various Christian beliefs, mainly because I grew up in that and the hypocrisies were just thrown at me. And no matter what I said or did, or like shoved information and like accurate, like articles from reputable sources and libraries, didn't matter because it went against the Bible. Did not matter. But that's fine. Anyways, so the Christian or the Catholic Church, I guess, because that's basically who has the popes. Um, there was actually there's a whole section of magic in the Middle Ages, which includes basically all the popes. But there's a lot of things about some popes doing black magic or magic to maintain like the people's votes. Because like back then, um, so like what's a good equivalent? Like you might have kings that is a supreme ruler of everything, but the moment the church says do this instead, like he drops everything and does that. So like the Pope rules all. Like he is technically more of a ruler and higher than like the King of England, essentially, during all of this. So most popes in the medieval times were actually at the center of disputes among a lot of people, even themselves. So like the College of Cardinals or something like that. Even if you were the Pope, like there's still beef amongst everybody. And it actually came out that there was a lot of assassinations, sorcery to basically hex their fellow people, and other kind of charges against humanity that happened at this time, which is so fucking weird, but whatever. So most of these popes that are listed in the biographies are either like killed, murdered, or like it tried to murder other people kind of thing in like hopes of succeeding himself. There's popes in here that are actually listed as the first openly homosexual pope. Fun fact.
Hmm.
He was pope 3 times, and I think I think you're voted at this time. Like I think you're voted. But he was also accused of rapes, murders, and other unspeakable acts of violence and sodomy. So
Oh, well,
he also had a lot of public or political enemies, and it could be because he was openly homosexual.
yeah,
So that could be why a
that'll
lot of
do
people
it.
said that about him. But other people in here actually had like their own grimoires and used them against other people, including other popes that suddenly befell a tragic death and all of that. So most of these popes either did black magic or were accused of black magic and still murdered regardless, to get what they wanted. And I think it's great that that these fucking people at this time were like, that's black magic, denounce that, you are going to hell. But they still did it.
Yeah, that sounds about like that sounds about right. Sounds like the
That's
Christian
why there's
church.
a right. That's why there's a running joke when like there's a priest to not let little boys around him.
Right.
And
Oi.
I'm sitting here like, ew, that's so true. I think actually I had a priest. I don't know if it was my priest or if it was a different priest, but there was one priest that I didn't like particularly, and I kept getting bad vibes from him. and he I think it was him. I think he got like in trouble for like, I don't want to say being inappropriate, but I think he was abusing like kids, like something. I
Jesus.
don't know. He wasn't there for long. He was, I mean, most of my like school years he was there, but like after I left, he wasn't there much longer. But yeah, so that is the
All right.
Christian saint of sorcerers, witchcraft, and all of the above occult things. And a fun little fact about the Catholic Church.
All right.
So
Yay.
yeah, I don't have any
So
answers to your questions, comments, or concerns. So don't ask. Don't ask,
okay,
don't
I won't
tell.
ask. I will not ask.
Okay. Anyways,
Okay.
until next time.
Bye.